Hello everybody, welcome over. Thank you very much for waiting for us. Hope you're all well. Thanks for coming and joining us for our special guest earworm of this month. So let's bring the lady and gentleman in. Just got to make sure that Cindy's there.
So I stepped in for Terry again.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
You are on a headset. Oh, you are here, but maybe not get out to YouTube.
Absolutely pickles me. Right, let's try that. How's that? That should be better. Right, so I'll say again, welcome all. Hope you're all well. Thank you very much for coming over and joining us. Brian, Pete, and Cindy. So as always, with a special guest earworm, it's time to ask.
Sound problem, Steve.
Well, they should be able to. I've changed it, so they should be able to hear me. All good now.
All good.
I've changed
all
the
good.
settings.
Says Hodge.
So, as always, it's about getting to know Cindy. So if you've got any questions to ask Cindy, then please put them in the chat, and either Cindy or the guys will read them out, and hopefully Cindy will answer them as good as she can answer them, as I'm going to say. So as we all know, Cindy is well known for her finials, and I'm not going to be doing a finial tonight because Cindy's in.
Yeah, chicken.
So I'm going to be turning something simple in the background. I'm just going to turn a basic. I've got a piece of laburnum. I'm just going to turn a nice little vase or something out of that while you all chuck in the questions for Cindy. So I'm going to go to the lathe. Brian's written all your names down, so if you haven't been in the chat, then you're not going to be read out, and read out the names and let the questions begin. Go for it, Brian.
Indeed. Okay, mate. So from the beginning, Paul Finlay was in first, and then we had Wee Val.
Hang on. No, they can't. I think we've got the same problem as Cindy.
Extra microphones anyone can try if they want them.
I know it's
My audio, and it's just going Pete Tong since then.
no sound again.
Let's blame it on Skype.
But, absolutely, I think it is Scout's fault.
Yeah.
Right, try that.
How's that now? Can anybody hear me now? Somebody put a thumbs up
Oh,
in the
dear.
chat or something.
So that's Brian
See-
chatting. This is me chatting. Can you hear me?
See, can we get any sound from the earworms? Well, if she's heard Steve now. Oh,
Good
good
now.
now, says Robert.
Right, I think I'm gonna need to.
Right.
I think I need to get rid of all the settings out of my OBS and start all again.
I think you do. Right, so we're all good now. I think I can hear Michelle shouting from the sitting room to tell me that it's okay now. Sorry. Can you? All right.
They're all saying
Okay.
yes, so
Right. They can all hear us now. That's good. Okay, so we'll start again then. So from the beginning, I'll just read through this quickly now because it will take forever. Paul Finlay was in first. Weeval, Michelle Usby, who just came in the door and told us we're good, and Mike Goof Milmister, Jennifer Scraft from Creations, Woody Turner, Rob from Klingspor. Michelle shouted something again, but I don't know what she shouted. Rob from Klingspor, Gary Glass, Alex the Wood Butcher, Brian with the Y is in, Barry Chitty is also here, Michael McEwen is in, Malcolm Douglas, James Dunn, Todd at Glen Cove, Rob Copperell, Woodturning, Wood and Burl, who is Haley.
Oops.
Anybody who doesn't know who Wood and Burl is, the name is Haley. Robert
Haley.
Hodgepodge, Clint of Wood Dancers, Susie the Swiss Woodturners in, Ward Wilson has joined us all the way from, where's Ward Wilson from? Arizona, is it? I think.
Arizona, yeah. The West Coast.
James Pritchard, James Crawford, Mark at Turning Krafts, Alan Gibb, Steve Hale, Scott Hampton is also in. William Kenny's in as well. Who else is there? Martin Ford has just joined us. Graham Brown has just joined us. That, I think, is about all I have on the list. Brian from Greenhaven Creations just joined.
right.
And that's it. That's what I think we're up to date.
Welcome everybody.
Currently, we have loads of people. Let me see how many we've got. We've 82 people watching, Sunday. So that's not
Very
too bad.
good. Very good. I recognize some of those names there.
Mm.
Dances with Aardvarks. I've seen you
Yep.
before.
Oh, that's
and,
Mike.
and Scott Hampton here and Hodgepodge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a troublemaker, Hodgepodge.
Oh yes,
Hodge is definitely a troublemaker.
all over the internet. He's a troublemaker.
You have to watch him. Robert Brockwood's in as well. Evening, Robert. If I missed anybody's name out, just stick your name at the bottom of the chat and I'll let everybody know that you're here.
Bailey Woodworks has just turned up.
Hi, Chris, Billy's Works. Roy the boy's in as well.
Right, Roy.
Must have missed Roy out there. See that? He says, Roy. He says, Roy, I'm here. Oh, okay. Right. So anybody who's got a question for Cindy, prefix it with a couple of question marks, and then we'll know it's a question, and we can try and get it direct straight to Cindy. The floor is yours, guys. Help yourselves. Cindy wants to answer questions.
Before we go down that line, is there anybody in the chat or the woodturning world who doesn't know who Cindy is?
Well, this is true.
I mean, she's sort of synonymous with most of us. But if there's anybody in the chat that doesn't know Cindy, then we can do a quick intro if you need it.
Andrew from Lively Woodshed's in. And Archie from Ockle Woodcraft and Bannockburn is in as well.
Oh, and Klingspor wants to know how I got into wood turning.
He does.
That's a very good question. Should I
Go for it.
should I do something there? Are we just talking, or should I show something?
You can
Just talking. We're not actually on screen at the moment. Only Steve is.
Only Steve on the screen in a minute.
Okay.
So if you just tell them verbally currently, we'll get you some pictures up there.
Okay, I got into wood turning because I was already a woodworker, cabinet maker. And the story how I got into that's another one. But I needed to make some chairs with spindles. And I could just watching those questions come through there and got distracted. So I had to buy a lathe and learn how to use it. And I got Dale Nish's book, Creative Wood Turning. And that was how I learned how to do wood turning. This was in '83. And I kind of got sold on addicted to the other things in the book. I never made any more furniture, but I started doing bowls and boxes and things like that. And so that was 40 years ago. I think that was 40 years ago. And I've been doing wood turning self-employed in some form or another since 95. There was another question there. Am I disappointed that Steve's not turning a finial? Yeah, I really think you should turn a finial, Steve. You know, you got a long way more roughing out to do there on that blank to get anything that looks like a finial, but I think you can do it.
That'll be a big finial.
And
finials can be big.
They can,
That looks like you, which is pretty nice stuff for finials.
It's a piece of laburnum.
Laburnum.
Oh, it's laburnum. Okay.
Roy the Boy is asking Cindy, what has been your best finial?
My best finial. That's not really a question I can answer because, you know, it depends on what you mean by best. Biggest, longest, prettiest. I tell you what, my best piece at any given moment is always my last one. And, or no, my favorite piece is the one I just finished. And my best one is my next one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just a philosophy there.
So we've got Andy the Woodward Learner just joined, and he says, "Hi, all. Sorry, I've not seen any of Cindy's stuff. That might be an opportunity to let Cindy on there and let her show off some of her pieces."
Yep. Just give me 1 second.
I could. Yes, I could.
So if we get Steve to highlight you on the screen.
Just give me 1 second, and I will do that.
Okay, we got to get over here.
And then you can take it away, Cindy.
Hang on, just 1 second.
Okay. Well, do you want to?
Just wait a minute until we get Steve to put us on the main screen.
The longest finial I've ever made. Well, I'm going to preface that by saying, I'm going to preface I do not try to make the longest possible. I think the longest one's about 7 inches. So it was a really large piece. I'm not really a long finial. I'm not really a long finials person.
Right, so over to you, Cindy.
I try to make it's over to me. Okay, then. Over to me. Well, so I'm going to go through a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to go through a bunch of stuff quick, and I'll get me out of the way there. And I'll get me out of the way there. Am I really on?
Yep.
Am I really on?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes. This is my shop from the outside. This is my shop from the outside. And my good friend Carter. And he's getting ready to help me pick up the leaves. Ready to help me pick up the pair of chairs that I made. One of the pair of chairs I made. My first chairs I made. My first wood turning project. What got me going? What got me going? I discovered that was when I discovered that I was making and the little box making and the little boxes I was making got together, and I had a box with a finial on it. And I didn't know that people had done this before, but I just thought it was fun. And I started making them in different sizes. This is the one I developed, same idea, but I developed it so that I could do demos because the other ones I couldn't make in the short enough amount of time. I've got other sizes I like to work in. This here is about 6 inches, 150 millimeters in diameter. And that's kind of a favorite size for me for lidded vessels. I've also made much bigger things. This one is 16 inches tall. I don't know how many millimeters that is. Plenty. And it's a burl with natural voids in it. I like to make burl vessels.
Cindy. Steve, we got an echo going on.
Yeah, I've cancelled it.
It's fixed. It's fixed.
I've sorted it.
Hodgepodge said it's fixed.
Yeah.
When you go.
Echo's fixed?
Yeah.
Are we okay?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go on to the next piece then. And this is one I did. There was when Ray Key passed away, a lot of his rough outs were passed around to people, and we all made something. And since I do lidded vessels with finials made out of African blackwood almost all the time, I made a lidded vessel out of one of Ray's pieces and colored it. And they auctioned these off, and it was a good thing, very good thing. I love to do natural edges, and this is a piece that I call a waterfall form. And natural edge, this is a naturally colored burl, but I also like to color wood burls, and I've got this coloring technique that I've developed for that. When you ask me how long of a finial does the stem count as a finial? I mean, it's the same turning techniques, just a little easier to do because it's supported on both ends. I do these. This is about 12 inches, 300 millimeters tall, something like that. And real gold leaf, 24 karat gold leaf
What's
on
the
the
diameter?
edge.
What's the diameter of that, Cindy? Roughly.
The diameter of
No,
the
the
cup
stem.
of this one is
The stem.
probably, oh, the stem. At the thinnest, 2
Wow.
or 3 millimeters, depending on the size of the piece. Now, I don't always just try to make them as thin as possible. I try to make something like this. That goblet cup at the top is about 4 inches, 100 millimeters or so in diameter. And so what I want is I want the balance of the piece when it's finished to be where it kind of moves in the breeze a little bit, but it doesn't fall over and break. So I don't want it too stiff. And the bigger the piece, the bigger the stem's got to be. So, and this may be 12 inches. What's that? 300 millimeters tall, something like that. Yeah. I love to do little boxes, and one of the things I do for my living is I do online wood turning classes, and this is one of the things I did recently. I could actually show you this exact piece, and it's got a friction fit lid, but I made one with a threaded lid also. And here's another little box style with opal inlay. I'm going to do this as my next online wood turning class. This 3-sided box, you can see the cross section triangular, and it's turned on the lathe without any special jigs or fixtures or things like that. Here's another threaded recent piece. This I call a magic bottle, and it's only about 2 inches, 50 millimeters tall, something like that. Chased threads on the male, tapped female threads, and it's just a fun little thread chasing project. I've also done recently some threaded boxes using a brass insert, which is another way to do threads. And I make a wooden insert and put it in there for the threads too sometimes. Now here we are. I am not just a wood turner, and this piece here is probably my finest woodworking project of my career so far. It's a toolbox I made for a really good friend. It was a side project. I didn't get paid for this. It was a gift. So took me 3 years of after hours, weekends kind of work to finish it. You know, I had a life to live at the same time. It's a machinist tool chest. There's the back panel. And you take that front panel down and you've got these drawers. This is quilted maple on the drawer fronts, and I carved those pulls and trying to make everything fit nicely. Full extension drawer slides made of lignum vitae and ebony for all those drawers. You can see they fully extend so you can get to all the stuff. And this guy was a machinist, and this toolbox sat in his, that's not where I want to go next, sat in his full-time workshop. He was a machinist making parts for a company that made big telescopes. For 30 years, he used this toolbox in the shop. So it's a testament to how well it turned out that it's still functioning, completely, fully functioning after all those years of opening the drawers and heavy stuff in them and things getting dropped on it probably and all that stuff. So I have some other things in the wood turning pieces. Do you have some questions now, or do you want to see some more of my wood turnings?
Whatever you want, Cindy. If you want to show some more, show some more.
All right, we'll show some more.
Your YouTube channel, so I'll put that in.
My YouTube channel, yes, thank you very much. I am really easy to find on the internet. All you have to do is, a friend of mine who doesn't turn said he just typed in Cindy Woodturning and Google, and he found me first. So yeah, I'm really pretty easy to find. It's not that easy for me to put links in or anything, so I could put a link to my website if I get
already done
a moment here.
Cindy.
Oh, good. Thank you. All right. So this here is what I call a space station. I made this one in about '02 or something. So 20 some years ago. It's Banksia pod. And I have since sort of refined that design. And this is what my more recent ones look like. I've done quite a bit with these Banksia pods. Here's an even more recent one along the same theme. It's gilded on the inside. And you can see how my finials made from the blackwood are able to be a lot more delicate than the finial made from the center of the Banksia pod, because Banksia pods are really not strong enough for much of a finial or much detail. I like using Banksia pods and turning them thin. And this is just a little miniature hollow form. It's about 2 inches in diameter, maybe a little more, so 50, 60 millimeters. And ditto for an ornament. And you can see if you go back, same concept here, turn it upside down. There it is. It's an ornament. And again, the finials, if you see a black finial, it's not dyed black. It's blackwood. This is a Banksia pod turned sideways. Typically, Banksia pods, when you turn them like this here, the grain of the pod goes vertically. And in this one, the grain of the pod is horizontal. So you get a completely different look out of it. And Banksia pods can be bleached and then colored. And that's what this is here. The finial and pedestal are not Banksia. They are, I believe, I believe it's Asian boxwood, something very light colored, and then it's dyed yellow. Here's a teapot out of a Banksia pod, not a functional teapot. And again, only about 60 millimeters in diameter. So, yeah, can you make tea in it, they ask?
Well, you can get your tea bag, and that's about it.
Well, yeah, you can put your tea bag in there, but you're not going to get to pour much tea out of it. But it does have a hollow spout and all that, and the lid comes off. So this is bleached and then white stained for that coloring effect. So I showed that 3-sided box a while ago, and this is the same concept, the same technique, turning it 3-axis so that I get a triangular cross section to the piece. But this is a compound curve because it's the 3-axis, but it's not just a straight-sided piece. And then I hollowed it out, hollowing on the center axis so that you break through the sides, and then I carved it too. So this has got 4 finials in it, and each one of them is 3 parts, and gold leaf on the inside, and it's about 14 inches tall. So I don't know how many millimeters is that.
14 inches.
Yeah, 350 mil. 350 mil.
350 mil. Yeah.
Yeah, 350. Okay. Here's another teapot. Again, only marginally functional. That the T-ball in there is a Banksia pod, and it's 3-axis. So you can get a little bit better view of that 3-axis with the hollowing on the center axis, so that it breaks through and leaves 3 ribs there. And the accent pieces are blackwood with little gold beads on it. I also like to work with those Sputnik sea urchins, and that's what this is. I didn't carve that. It's a sea urchin, and I gilded it with metal leaf and made the finial and stem and things like that. So this teapot might actually hold tea, maybe one. And the lidded natural edge vessel that I really like, I do those in, you saw the waterfall form, and then you saw some goblet-like forms. And this is sort of more of a low lidded bowl with the natural edge on the top instead of the bottom like the waterfall. This happens to be about 4 inches in diameter, 100 millimeters, and it's a moose antler with the natural edge where the part of the antler is right at the animal's head, and it's got that natural edge there. So it's turning, but it's not wood.
Interesting.
Does it turn easy, or is it?
We've had a couple of questions in the meantime, Cindy.
It turns kind of easy. I mean, it turns easy, but it dulls your tools rapidly. So you got to work with that. And There was a question about, is my Banksia pod stabilized? Yeah. And stabilized, I assume you mean cactus juice. And the answer is usually no. But I do use massive amounts of CA glue. Turns out that, at least in my feeling about it, CA glue is the best thing for hardening up a Banksia pod. Better than cactus juice, better than epoxy, and it doesn't stain the material. So this here is 24 inches in height, about 6 inches in diameter. It's a lidded goblet form made from box elder burl, probably 3 millimeter thick wall on the vessel and similar on the stem. So this is one of my larger pieces, colored with the same technique I use for coloring things typically. And that's kind of all I have. Here's a little interesting thing. The one on the right is 4 inches tall, 100 millimeters. The one on the left is 16 inches tall, 400 millimeters. Wow. So when you blow them up to look the same size, you wouldn't know the one on the right is small. And I'm going to say that is the difference between a small piece and a miniature. And a small piece would be something like, let me get back to it. This one, this piece is 3.5, 4 inches tall, like about 100 millimeters tall. And you can tell, because if you were to blow this up to be the size of this one, the finial would look like a baseball bat size. So when you look at something like this, it's an obvious small piece rather than a miniature. Anyway, there's just a little bit of design weirdness there. So yeah, that's kind of all the stuff. I have a few more pieces, but come on, guys, ask me some questions. Can I turn bone and horn? And I would say yes, because antler is really the same thing as bone or horn. It is the animal's bone, horn, and a little bit stinky, but doesn't bother me, the smell. What bothers me is the fact that it's so abrasive. So you just, carbide's a good idea, but even carbide dulls with that stuff. Anybody else got a question? Okay,
well, I got a personal comment. What's always fascinating in your work is the proportions of everything, and that side by side of the large and the small. It shows perfectly how your proportioning is so perfect on everything.
Well, I don't know about perfect, but I do work on that, and to proportion a piece so that all the elements look good together. It's partly the shapes, it's partly the balance of height, it's partly the balance of diameters, and it's partly the types of material. And you're not going to see me use more than 2 different types of wood in a piece usually. I don't go for a lot of different kinds of wood because I think that it starts to get to be too much. So there were 2 questions about how am I keeping on going after 40 years? Yep. And one of them was, where do I get my ideas? And the other is, how do I keep the passion going? Well, keeping the passion going is because when I said I've been doing it for this long, I have not been doing the same thing. You could say wood turning, you could say woodworking, but you're not going to see me having done exactly the same stuff all along. Like right now, I'm doing more teaching than I am actually making pieces. So when I'm making something, I'm designing it so that I can show other people how to do it. And I'm practicing that part of it. And I'm doing video, and I'm, and that's very creative as well. I've done those fancy art shows with the larger pieces. And so the way I keep the passion is by if I want to move on to something slightly different, I have been. And also, I think woodworking in general just is never going to get old for me, no matter how long I do it. And where do I get my ideas? I don't know. I get ideas from everywhere. Sometimes architecture. I'm driving by and I see a building and I think, yeah, that would make a beautiful little box. Sometimes I just, see something in nature, that form, and it would translate well into a wood turning form. So I guess I get ideas everywhere, but mostly I get ideas from other people. All the other people around in the world, other craft disciplines, wood turners, ceramicists, glass blowers. I am not above using a form someone else came up with. I mean, I'm also going to say I don't think there's anything new out there. I think they've all been done before. And so it's not like I don't try really hard to make myself so unique, like, oh, nobody's ever done this before. I just try to do it good. I try to do a nice job. So here's another question. Oh, Klingspor, thank you for all these great questions. Something in wood turning I wish I was better at. Thread chasing is one. Airbrushing, which isn't really wood turning, but it's related. Texturing. I haven't even done segmenting yet. And so there are lots of things out there waiting for me. And I guess I'm going to admit that even though I have tried really hard, I'd like to be better at thread chasing. And I'm sure that what it takes is more practice. Yep.
Always is more practice.
So we had a few extra people join us in the meantime. We had Andy the Valley Woodturners in, along with Lucy at Bundy Row. Anthony Green has joined us. Matthew Lawrence is in as well. Andrew from AJK Woodworks. Baz from Real Simple Things is in as well. Good evening, everybody. We've currently got 84 people watching. That was an immaculate presentation there. Cindy, I love your work. I've always loved it. It's amazing.
Oh. Thank you. Well, okay, so bring on some questions for me.
So Steve currently is back turning, so we're having a look at Steve's turning here just for a minute. If you have any more questions, stick them in.
What is Steve making?
I'm not 100% sure.
He's getting closer to a finial, I think.
It looks a bit like a vase.
Still got a bit more weight to take away yet.
I'm going to be making a vase. I'm not making a finial. No way.
Oh, yeah. Well, you could make a vase with a finial lid.
You could make a shape like a finial, but hollow it out, and then you've got a vase, kind of like a
finial vase.
Fred Gulliver's in as well. Good evening, Fred. Sorry I didn't mention you there, buddy. Lucy has just said those pieces are beautiful, Cindy. They are indeed. Right, Cindy, who was the guy that you said the first book you got? Was it Dale
Nish. And if y'all don't know who he is,
I don't know.
He's one of the, I'm going to say, founders of wood turning in the U.S. Okay. Wood turning as we know it. He was a professor of whatever they call it, a shop teacher, but professor and doctorate and all that stuff at college in Utah. And he was well acquainted with Kieran Forbes and Alan Batty and Ray Key and Richard Raffin and all those guys back in the, 70s or something like that. And came over to the UK to learn more about wood turning and brought all that back to the US. And he started his business, Craft Supplies USA, based on Craft Supplies UK at the time. He was involved in one of the very first wood turning symposiums they had. And that was what spawned the American Association of Woodturners annual symposium and that whole organization. But Dale, I guess, was not really an organization kind of guy, and so he really wasn't involved with the organization. He had his own thing going. But he's written a few books. He's done loads of teaching and demonstrating and all that kind of stuff at symposiums and things everywhere. And so really one of the fathers of wood turning as we know it.
So Todd is asking, what is your favorite wood to turn?
My favorite wood to turn, I'm going to give it a category instead of A1.
Good.
Because I could say favorite for this, favorite for that, favorite for this, favorite for that. It's not the same wood every time, but burls.
Right.
I think burls are my favorite of wood because the patterning, the beauty of burls is just really appeals to me, whether it's one kind of burl or another. So for a demo, madrone is my favorite. For coloring, box elder maple is my favorite. For taking detail, African blackwood is my favorite. For doing a finial quickly, madrone, bloodwood, or holly are my favorite. For doing boxes, depends on what kind of box.
There's a question there, Cindy, from Doug Miller. And Woodspawn Round, who I'll just mention his name now because he's just come in. He says, Cindy, didn't you and I meet at Terry Daniels' home for a wood central gathering? ?
That's possible. It doesn't ring a bell. Wood Central, that was the online forum. Right? Online forum.
Doug will have to come back to us on that.
Yeah. Anyway, it's very, very possible because I have until very recently traveled to different places, clubs around the world to do demos and classes in wood turning. I am not doing that anymore now, though, because I do it all online.
Robert Klingspor says, question, Rob's not a wood turner, so let's so he might not know the answer to this himself. Those very long, thin stems, can they be made from any wood, or do they need to have a specific wood to get that long and thin?
That's a great question because the simple answer is sort of, but the more complicated answer is to do something long and thin like that, you need wood grain. Trying to do it out of plastic or particle board or burl or something that's not got that vertical grain in it, you're going to have a hard time getting it really thin. I didn't say you can't do it. I just said hard time. Because if there's a good wood grain, like in something like African blackwood, cocobolo, probably laburnum if you could find a straight grain piece of it, holly, madrone, maple, all kinds of things, straight grain will bend and flex back. It's resilient. Something like casting wax or acrylic or plastic or resin or epoxy or something like that, if you bend it off axis too much, it's going to snap right off. So you have to be so careful with your turning that you don't deflect it off axis at all. So the other part of it is if you have cross grain, like you tried to make a finial out of something with the grain running horizontally through the piece instead of vertically, the grains are not lending strength to the thin part, and it'll snap off real easy. Again, if you deflect it, it won't come back, it'll just break. Interestingly enough, metal is actually not a better material than wood for making a thin finial because it takes, number one, so much cutting force to get it to cut, being harder, that you have to push harder on it. You're more likely to deflect it. And most metal that you can turn, that you can cut with turning tools is going to bend when you deflect it. Not break like plastic, but bend. So it again is not resilient. Titanium is pretty resilient, but I'm good luck cutting that with wood turning tool.
Yeah, indeed. Not only does it bend, it could be seriously painful too when it doesn't bend.
Yeah, could be, yeah. Oh, here's a good question. Who are my inspirations in the wood turning community? Yes, starting with Dale Nish, absolutely. David Nittman, David Ellsworth, Bert Marsh was a really strong influence. You'll notice if you see my work, I use that OG form a lot. And that's a direct inspiration from Bert Marsh, even if my pieces don't exactly look like his. I could put up one of those OGs. Yeah, there's one. If you want to see it, what I'm talking about, OG form. Let's see, who else? Richard Raffin, Ray Key, and Chris Stott taught me how to do boxes via VHS tape back in the 90s or so. I continue to be inspired by many, many people in the wood turning community. And that's the wonderful thing about the wood turning community. And I have to say, I watch demos by people with a very large range of experience levels, and I learn something from everyone. So my inspiration comes from, well, all of you guys, everyone.
Good answer.
Good luck with that one.
Would I stay well clear of for a class? If we're talking hands-on, I'm going to stay clear of anything that is hard and brittle, and anything with knots, cracks, curly figure, unless we're doing something specifically wanting curly figure. If I were teaching a hands-on class, I like to choose cherry, soft maple. For burls, I like to choose maple burl. And remember what part of the world I'm from. You have other things in your part of the world. I believe Phil Irons uses a chestnut burl. I think that's what it is. It's very similar to what I said, what I called maple burl, in that it colors nicely and it cuts really easy. Yeah, so I stay clear of for demos. If I'm doing something in front of people, what I stay clear of is anything that is so hard that it's just going to take longer to do the job. Because if I'm doing something where people are watching, I don't want to spend extra amounts of time making a million little tiny cuts on some hard wood. So I will choose wood that cuts nicely, takes detail reasonably well, doesn't have any bad habits, and looks good on camera. And that answer to that is almost always madrone, or maple burl, or cherry, or ash is okay. So I hope that answered the question. Are there any young and upcoming turners that catch my eye? Well, Emma Cook, Elizabeth Weber, I guess Roberto Ferrer is young. Vivian Grandoyer is young. Laurent Niclot. A lot of them, surprisingly young and upcoming. Now we're going to say young and upcoming are not children. They are under 50 in our world.
Yeah, that's young in our world.
That's young in our world.
It is, yeah.
I'm going to rephrase.
Steve, you need some better forcers there. Look at
No, that's wet. That's wet. That's why it's like that.
Steam, it's steam,
That's
not
steam.
smoke.
It's
Oh,
wet
is it
piece.
steam?
It's
It's not smoke?
That's a piece of wet piece of
actually
wood.
Said, could you teach Steve how not to be nervous when doing a finial?
Oh, yeah,
My
sure.
rephrasing of that is, how would you encourage somebody to be more bold in their approach to fine pieces of work?
Okay. The first thing I'm going to encourage them to do is not be more bold, and stay comfortable, because you're going to expand faster if you're not nervous. So I think part of the first one was, how would I teach Steve not to be nervous doing a finial? And be anyone. I have done hands-on workshops on doing finials, and what I like to teach is work on the cuts, get confidence with the tools, work on the shapes, because when you have confidence with the tools, you can make the shape you want to see. And don't try to make it thin. Don't try to make it long. Try to make it look really good. That's the number one. I learned how to do finials by doing bottle stoppers. And I think that's a great thing because it taught me how to make the cuts, how to have confidence with the tools, how to put shapes together, how to create the shape that I saw in my mind. Have I seen Ellie Polite's segmented finials? Yes, and that's really incredible stuff there. Yeah, he does unbelievable.
Just going back to what you just said, Cindy, I think a lot of people, they forget that to learn the basics before they try and get too adventurous.
Yes, that was what I was trying to say exactly. Spend your time where you are. Don't get too ambitious in trying to do the masterwork right away. And I was at an advantage there in a way because I didn't really see all. I started before there was internet and pictures of everything everywhere, so I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. And now people are just inundated with all these amazing things that are being done by people with 20 years of experience or more. And it's not necessary to think you should do that in your first day. So if you can't make the tool do what you want to see, then learn that and stay there until you feel really good. And shape is way more important with anything than pretty much anything. The kind of wood you're using, making if we're just talking about finials, making the finial long and thin, those are long and thin are two characteristics that can be part of a design, but they are not necessarily the best ones. Mm-hmm. Good form, aces, thin, any day. You'll find someone on their first day making finials, they make it thin. Okay, great, but it looks ugly. You didn't really do very well. You would have been better off to make something beautiful that was not thin. And also for hollow forms, practice form before you spend hours hollowing it. And if you are hollowing, don't try to make the walls ultra thin. That just makes it take 5 times as long. Make pieces where you learn form, where you practice getting the form you want. And that's the tool control part. I would also encourage people to look around at other people's work and pay attention to what grabs you. You walk into the tables at the Instant Gallery at a symposium and you see all the work people brought. Pay attention to which pieces drew your attention and go look at them and see what makes that piece stand out. How is that different from the one next to it that did not grab your attention? And those are ways that you can zero in on what forms attract you and where you should go. So, any more questions for me?
There's a question for Steve there. Steve, what make of your Forstner bits?
Record power. Good set. I think
Are they carbide?
No, they're not carbide. High speed steel.
Robert Klingspor's asking you again, Cindy. He's got another question. Do you ever use epoxy resin in turnings?
I do use epoxy resin. I have not yet gotten the setup to cast my own, where you have to have a pressure pot, but I'm working that way. You know, there's how do you keep the passion going? Always new stuff to try. I've tried a little bit of casting epoxy that doesn't need a pressure pot. I've bought blanks that were stabilized and or hybrids with some epoxy in them, or Alumilite or some other resin. Not to say the word epoxy. How about just resin of any kind?
Resin, yeah. Resin.
Yeah. It's horrible to turn, but the results are really cool. That magic bottle that I showed is a resin casting piece I bought from someone else. It's actually, that one was a pen blank. You can get these oversized pen blanks. You can get game call blanks. So it's not necessary to cast your own in order to try turning this stuff. but I plan to because I think it'll be fun.
Resin's got a different aspect to things. You can do whatever you like with resin.
Yeah, yeah, and then it's not going to move.
No.
It's not going to oval. It's not going to tighten up.
No.
And you can polish it up really great without a million coats of something. And yeah, so I really like I like the results. I don't like the stringy chips or the smell.
No, it's very messy to turn.
Oh yes, very messy and yeah, but the results. I have a little box that I made out of one of those blanks. It's stabilized and colored, and I just love the feel of the material. You can get thin walls without as much risk of breaking, and you can thread it usually, and nice stuff.
A few more people joined us. With Benjamin's in. Joe Senior has joined us. Hi, Joe. And Barry's Wood Creations is also in.
Hi, Barry. How you doing?
Good evening, guys.
Hey, Benjamin, I recognize you from a lot of other places.
Troublemaker.
Troublemaker. Yeah. Yep. Ben the troublemaker.
Wrong size.
He's usually got something to say.
So Steve is hollowing, but he's not hollowing through a tiny opening. And again, tiny opening is only one of the characteristics of design that can work. And if you're learning hollowing, if you're learning form, give yourself a break and start with things that are not. If you're nervous about what's happening, you're not going to be doing your best. Brian will let me turn resin in his workshop. Well,
no, he
know,
won't. No, he won't.
I don't know if he's going to let me. Oh, was that a sarcastic remark? Okay.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah, Brian likes a clean workshop.
I see. Like Pat Carroll, you mentioned resin to him, and he's got problems with it.
It's not. Although I do have some.
You've had some for 2 years.
Well, no, it's just over a year now I've had it, so I've managed to turn it yet. I have to steel myself with that, I think.
You did turn a bit I sent you. I will give you your dues.
I did, yeah. The Rob from Klingsport says, I am never touching a wood lathe. It terrifies me. Oh, we'll have to get you started, Rob.
And Rob Klingsport Abrasive is obviously the clue is in the name.
Yeah.
He's been following us all for a while now, and he's interested in the abrasive side of it, but he will get on a lathe at some point.
He will, yeah.
He gets too close to a lot of us. One of us is going to get him turning.
He'll get mugged eventually.
Just a plug for the lathe here. I think having used lots of machinery, it's one of the safest machines in the shop.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's, you don't have a big spinning saw blade or metal parts spinning around. And
indeed.
Yeah. And I think the mini lathes have gotten I'm saying this a lot of women, but not just women. People that didn't grow up with machinery and tools might be somewhat nervous about some big old loud thing that spins around, whether it be a lathe or something else. And a small lathe just feels more safe. And when you can feel safe, you can gain confidence, gain skill. And so that's a good thing. And I think the carbide tools also are giving people confidence, being able to do something without spending a lot of time learning how to sharpen and all that.
I think the people find fearful is that it's not a natural reaction to shove something sharp into something spinning at 2,500 RPM. So
yeah,
I think that's the.
Well, think of it like pottery. It's just like a potter's wheel, except that it's subtractive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you can think of it like carving, wood carving. You take a knife and you push it into the wood and it makes a shaving. Wood turning is just a little bit sped up, but same process. In fact, I've seen more injuries from wood carving where the chisel slips and cuts somebody than I have on the lathe.
And again, it comes down to tool control.
Yeah. And take some lessons and get a feel for what to expect, where the risks are.
Now, Susie
And
pointed out that we missed a question from Rob. I believe that question was about your sanding regime, your abrasives.
okay.
I know you do a lot where you start at 240 grit, but Rob was asking what grits do you use?
Yeah, it depends on the piece, but my my philosophy on abrasives is to get as good a finish off the tool as I possibly can, so that I can start with a higher, finer grit of abrasive. And one of the things I use to gain that is negative rake scrapers, double beveled scrapers with a sharpening burr on the top side, because you can clean up the tool marks, clean up any little bits of tear out, and therefore start with, say, 240 or 180 in the extreme cases. And when I'm doing a finial, some parts of it I start with 1,000, some parts of it 600, some parts of it 400. The coarser the abrasive, the more it's going to change the shape of your piece. The smaller the piece, the more that changes things. If you've got a great big vessel and you change the shape a little bit from 180 grit abrasive, it's not going to really be that noticeable. You take a little finial that's only, well, a couple millimeters in diameter, for instance, or a half an inch, 13 millimeters, or under 25 anyway, and the amount you remove right up next to a shoulder from something like 240 grit is going to be a noticeable not good change. So the thing about abrasives that's, I think, somewhat unusual to me is that maybe I start with a 180, 240, 400, but I'm going to carry it all the way to 4,000 on the bare wood. And that, I believe, gives me a clarity to the wood grain that stands out. And you don't need as much of a finish. You don't need as much of the finishing product applied to have it look nice if the wood was polished to begin with.
Ray Watson proves a point. He says, I've just started wood turning at the age of 61, and he's loving every minute of it.
Excellent. Welcome to wood turning.
Good man, Ray. Welcome along.
Yeah, good deal. 61, a relative youngster in this community.
Indeed.
Got a couple more questions in there, too. You want to...
Mike from Dances with Albert says, are there any forms that Cindy admires and maybe plans to try, but hasn't turned yet?
Well, there are forms that I admire, and the OG form is one of my favorites. The kind of, I call it a kind of a heart-shaped form, like, lots of people use that form, and I love it. But those are not ones I haven't tried yet. Something I haven't tried yet that I would like to is I would like to do some ovals. Does it count if I'm not just turning it? It's not just classic forms. I want to try doing some pieces where I turn it, cut it apart, take a section out, and glue it back together so that it's oval. Okay. I'd like to try some forms, some of the forms I like with that technique. I would like to try segmenting Banksia pods. That really doesn't count as a form, but I'm not thinking of things right now, but ask me next week and I will have remembered a few things that I'd like to try. There's always stuff out there. Oh, I'd like to try that bias thing, where they take a cube and put the two opposing corners in the centers of the lathe and make something that comes out looking three-sided, sort of. Yep. I'd like to try that. Never done it.
Steve done one of them last week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one
I haven't
the week
done that.
before, was it? Maybe, I don't know.
Got one there.
Oh, what finishes do I use? I prefer oil finish. Tongue oil usually. There are various forms of tongue oil finish, but I really like the way a penetrating oil wakes up the wood grain. I will occasionally use water-based polyurethane or oil-based polyurethane, or even maybe lacquer on something if I don't want the. Oh, see, there's is that Steve showing that?
Yeah.
That's
It
it's
was,
one
yeah.
of those bias cut pieces there.
Yep.
Yeah. Oil finishes will sometimes darken the wood a little bit, and sometimes you really don't want that, and lacquer won't. So on a finial, for instance, if it's a white wood and I want it to stay white, I'll use lacquer or CA. Tiny pieces, I like CA. Kind of a pain in the neck, but it has its advantages. I don't use the same finish for everything. Depends on the piece. Wasn't there another question about somebody again asked what kind of wood do I like, and all of them.
The other half of that question was, what's the biggest piece you've done?
Oh, what's the biggest piece I've done? Okay, I have done 2 burl natural edge pieces that are 24 inches in diameter.
Wow.
And that's going to be the biggest. I have also done a piece that was 24 inches tall, and it's one of those kind of short and wide hollow form, tall pedestal, tall finial. And it was a collaboration with David Nittman, my partner, who's now not with us anymore. So it was the beaded burn colored thing on the vessel, and then blackwood stem and finial. So I guess 24 inches is it.
Robert Hodgepodge just said you should give the multi-axis turning a try, like your Carter cat piece from Derek. He says, I took a 3D class and it was a blast.
I don't know about Derek's style. I'm not sure it appeals to me, maybe. But yes, multi-axis, and I have plans to try that. Thank you for the reminder. That's definitely on my radar. I've done multi-axis, multi-spindle axis kind of stuff, and I'd like to try some of those offset chuck kind of things like Paul Howard uses and other things like that. Have I ever found a lacquer that doesn't stink the place out? No, which is one of the reasons I hate the stuff. It's also not good for us. And the thing I like to use that doesn't stink is water-based polyurethane. There's a product called General Finishes Woodturners finish that is a water-based polyurethane that dries really fast and sands really easy, and I like that one. Yeah, water-based poly is a good choice for not stinking. Lacquer, though?
Is the water-based polyurethane as durable as the lacquer?
I don't really know the technicalities. It feels like it is, and I believe it possibly is even more durable than lacquer. But both are durable enough for our decorative pieces. I think as far as durable wear resistance, CA glue is really high on the list there. I've got some pens that people have made for me and I've made for myself, use them all the time, carry them in my purse. CA finish, just oblivious to wear.
See, I like CA finish on things I don't touch.
Things you don't touch.
Yeah. Christmas tree ornaments, things like that. It's really shiny, really crisp, but it just doesn't feel right in my hand. If I pick up a piece of wood that's got a CA finish,
plastic, yeah.
It does feel like plastic. And, polyurethane too. And that's something that I feel like, that's why I like an oil finish. Good point. I like the feel of oil finished wood. And when I've done things, some of my bigger, really brightly colored pieces, I'll use the multiple coats of polyurethane for that glass look. And it does, it looks like glass when you have a big piece, but I've done it on small pieces, and they're really lightweight, and they feel like plastic. And to me, that is really not a nice feeling.
Yeah, there's a sort of an emotional contact with wood. So
Yep.
if you put a polyurethane or a CA or any other plastic coated finish to it, it takes that away from you.
Yeah, it does. And the CA finished pens I use, stabilized wood's the same kind of thing. It really doesn't feel like wood anymore. It may feel nice, and I like using a CA finished pen. I like the way it feels in my hands. For a pen, yeah. Or
Yeah,
actually for a
different
little
products.
box too. It depends on the thing, I guess. Oh, Hodgepodge mentioned my Carter Cat piece from Derek. Yes, I like that piece very much. And I don't think I have a picture of it to show, but yeah.
So, have you got any events coming up, Cindy, or anything like that?
Well, I do. And yeah, thanks for the reminder. I should mention I do something just about every week. Some of them are free, some of them are not. I'm doing a ticketed event, online wood turning class, one of my long IRDs where I show how to make something, and that's on that tapered triangle box I showed way at the beginning. And that's November 4th, which is 2 weeks from tomorrow. But meanwhile, this coming Thursday, I'm doing what I call a sharing session. It's a Zoom meeting and interactive mics and cameras if you want. And the idea is it's a place for people to share work that they've made, ask a question about something, show off some technique they just discovered, a jig they made. And we all really learn a lot from each other. So it's about sharing what you've done or asking a question to the group if there's something you're wanting to do. So that's this coming Thursday. Every other Thursday, I do something like that, alternating between the live Zoom sharing and a live stream, which is a live stream is kind of like what we're doing here right now. It's, live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and StreamYard. And that's, I usually try to pick a topic. Like the last one I did safety equipment, and before that I did sanding techniques, and sometimes I'll do some tool, feature a tool or something like that. And it's interactive like this is with the chat. And so people can ask me questions, post in the chat what their experience is. And so those are free also. How do you sign up? If you go to my website and click subscribe, you'll find my email list, my newsletter list, and I send out the Zoom link to the sharing sessions like this coming Thursday, and I send out the direct link to StreamYard for the live streams. But actually, live streams you can just show up on my YouTube channel at the right time and get it. But if you need to know when it is, then it helps to be on my mailing list. You can go to my website and find out about things like that. I don't have a vendor showcase coming up because we just did one. That's me and Todd Raines, Joe Fleming, Lyle Jameson, Steve Worcester, have I named them all? Vicki Jordan, me, and we do this vendor show. We had that a couple weeks ago. What shape, size finial would I suggest for the first one to make? I would suggest shape. Find a shape you like, a fairly simple one. Use a bead, a V-groove, and a cove. So you put the elements together. Don't try to make it thin. Keep it a quarter of an inch or bigger. Even better, what I would really recommend is start making bottle stoppers, wine bottle stoppers. You can get very creative with those, and you don't have to be thin. You can learn the techniques.
Yeah, I would say start with you've got a lid you need to lift. Make a knob that'll lift it off, and then make that a bit fancier on the next one.
Yeah, and that's another good point. If the knob, if the finial is something you're going to lift the lid off the box with, then you need to take that into account. Maybe you make it a little heavier so that it can handle that. Maybe you make your lid fit really loose. That's what I do. My lids are not tight when there's a delicate finial on it. But yeah, think about the function, and also just think about the shapes. Don't try to make it real thin or long. Try to make it beautiful. Here's another good question for me. Since I'm doing in-person demos and teaching online for now, will I still attend SWAT and have a booth? And my plan is yes. I may not attend AAW every year, but SWAT, yes. I will still have a booth. How much inventory I have is who knows. But yeah, I think SWAT's an important one. Any others, probably, who knows, maybe not. Is there another question?
That's right, the boy being cheeky again. He says,
And
what size of finial should Steve make for this long-lidded pot?
that's not cheeky. That's a great question. So
No, you don't know Roy. You don't know Roy. That is
Roy.
Okay, maybe he intended it to be a dig at Steve, but
He
I'm
did,
going to
yeah.
take that as a serious design question and
Good.
answer it as such. I would like my finial not to be the same height as my piece, my vase. So if I have a tall vase like Steve just made, I am going to make the finial maybe a quarter of the height of that, maybe a third of the height of that. You start getting into half the height of it, and it starts making the finial look a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. So think about that. And I'm also not going to make the finial the same height as the diameter of a piece usually. A tall piece like that, I usually want a shorter finial. A short piece that's small, maybe I want a real long finial. If you looked at my finial box I showed when I said the difference between a miniature and a small piece, the finial on that finial box is taller than the vessel and the vase part. So if it's a small piece, I'm going to prefer the finial to be bigger, taller. And on Steve's piece here, I don't know how big that actually is, but I would say just gut feeling a quarter of the height of that would be a good height for a finial.
It's about 6 inches tall, is it, Steve?
Yeah. Just over 6 1/4.
6 1/4.
Just over.
So something like a 2 inch, inch and a half, 2 inch finial would look really nice there.
And John Foster's put in a point that I think all of us that do any sort of YouTube at all struggle with, but you guys that do them regular. He said, "Hi everyone. Question for Cindy and Steve. With all the media coverage on YouTube, Zoom, etc., is it hard to keep your demos new and interesting for your audience?"
Yeah.
I suppose it is. I do my best, and I don't know how well I'm doing really.
Well, if people come and watch you, you must be doing well.
I guess I'm doing something right. Yeah. I'm always trying to do outreach to find new audiences because I know there are some people who are just going to get tired of what I can do, and there's only so much I can do. And I try to do something interesting. I try to do things that, like sometimes I'll do a beginner theme, something that you can do with just 3 tools, or if you've never made a box before, or how to work with a burl, how to cut it up. I don't know. I just try to come up with interesting ideas. But yeah, there's lots of competition, and I don't know what to say about that. I think all we can do is just try to be good and maybe look for continuing new audiences.
You get the same problem with live demonstrations as well, because you turn up and you do not know who's in front of you. You don't know how much you need to expand on a point of the cut or design shape or whatever, and how experienced they are. So on YouTube, you're dealing with a global audience, and you can go into great detail about how you hold a tool and how you present the tool.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you've got an experienced audience watching, then they're going to be bored. But if you don't cover those facts, then somebody new won't get it right. It's
And
very difficult to judge.
and the person who's new will eat it up.
Yeah.
And then you do another one where you're doing some really highly technical thing that's lots of detail, and the advanced people will love it, and the new people will be lost. So maybe your audience is varied a little bit. About the trying to meet the needs of an audience, think about a symposium. When you're trying to pick the demonstrators for a symposium, you don't want everybody to be turning bowls. You need to find a mix of things, a variety, and that's pretty difficult. I guess it's a sort of the same thing that either of us might be trying to do for our live streams and things. I'm always struggling for ideas for the live stream because that's not a project thing. Projects are easy for me. It's more of I want to show techniques and things, and usually someone will say, hey, why don't you show drying wood, for instance? And so, oh, yeah, it's a great idea. So I get ideas from other people a lot. And I try to listen to the people who want to watch me, what they would like to see.
The thing is, there's nothing new in Woodturn. Everybody's done everything, so we just sort of refining that a little bit.
Yeah, and we're doing it again because some people haven't seen it or haven't seen it lately.
Yep.
You know, there's nothing wrong with doing it again in a slightly different way.
Oops.
Well, there is nothing new, but there are things you haven't thought of yet.
Oh, Ben's wondering, what do I think of Steve's logo?
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Where is Steve's logo?
Steve's logo is on the lathe next to the.
I will show you, Cindy.
Okay.
It's on the headstock.
There's my logo.
There's the logo. Oh, we can't really see it. We need the close up.
I can't really see it.
Don't know if I've got a close up.
Do a tailstock. Do a tailstock cam. It's fine.
Tailstock.
Tailstock.
I think
we can
a
see it.
logo.
It's right next to the piece on it.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
A logo needs to be easy enough to read that people don't have to squint.
There we go. Look,
oh yeah,
there it is.
Hey, that's a good one.
It's what he's referring to is a knot in the bottom. It's a bit of cheek that's going around on Steve's channel. Why is there a knot in his logo?
It's also the bench chisel that Woodturn is using as a logo, but
but that's
none of us understand.
The thing is, when people come and watch, and they
saw that it was a.
When people make the comment saying you've got a flat work chisel on your logo, then they know the difference between a wood turning gouge and a flat work chisel.
Oh, right.
Why the square knot though? Where's the significance there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is because I always forget, Cindy. So you know.
Oh, don't give me any of that. Tell the truth.
Well, it's just a generic image I got off the internet. My daughter bet me that I daren't do a YouTube channel and start a video, and it took me about 20 minutes to start up a channel. And I thought I need a logo. Oh, that image will do, and I just put skkrafts in it and the chisel. That was it. And that's because I'd never thought that the channel would take off like it has.
And it's stuck.
So I know there's no point changing now because everybody loves my logo because they always talk about it.
Well, and the other thing about a logo is if it's recognizable, identifiable, then
you're
you're kind of stuck with it, but you should stick with it.
Yeah, exactly. As you guys keep talking about it, so I'm not going to change it.
Lots of companies change their logos, but there are other companies who stick with, like Coca-Cola. Their logo's been the same basically forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there's lots of other companies that change their logo every sort of 4 or 5 years, refresh their idea.
I shall keep mine.
There's no right or wrong there. I'm keeping mine because Steve made it.
So what kind of finish are you putting on that, Steve?
This is Yorkshire grit. This is an abrasive paste. So this will take up to about 1,000 grit, and then I shall put a wax over the top of it.
Well, there's something I haven't tried much and need to, is that abrasive paste method of finishing.
It's good because you need to sand. I know you start at 240, but you only need to sand up to 240 and then use your abrasive paste to take up to 1,000 grit and then if you want to go further than that, you can use the microfine to take it up to 2,000. So
what I really need to do is do 2 pieces
Mhm.
and finish one of them to the way I normally do it, and then
Yep.
finish the other one
See, is there any
just
difference?
like that, like Steve just said, and see
Yep.
if you can notice a difference. Then you'd probably have to do it with a couple of different kinds of wood, because
You
You would, yeah.
Yeah.
some woods are going to react better to the abrasive paste than others,
Yeah.
probably.
the hardwoods will react to the microfine better than softer woods,
Mm-hmm.
because the microfine was more for resin than really for wood,
Oh.
but it works really well with hardwoods.
Mm-hmm. Well, on resin and stabilized wood, I use pastes to get the finish, but I'm using the pastes that after you're 4,000, you go up from there.
Yep.
Or micro mesh or Zona or something like that.
Yeah, so that one was the original. So that's Yorkshire Grit Original, which takes you up to 1,000, and then we'll go over it with a bit of fine, and that should take us up to about 2,000.
Did you wax it between the two?
No,
No.
it's got wax. It's got beeswax in it to lubricate it.
How do you get all of the coarse Yorkshire grits off the surface? Are you
get
when you just
when you work it all in, you work it in for 4 or 5 minutes, and then you go over with a cloth until all the traces are off. So when your cloth comes off, it's clean. As soon as it comes off clean, you know you've removed all the abrasive and the beeswax from the original.
And the way it works also is that the abrasive in it actually breaks down as you use it.
Oh, okay.
So it gets finer and finer and finer and finer as you're breaking it down. So it's going from 320 grit basically as its starting premise, and then as you use it and manipulate the grit on the piece, it breaks itself down to smaller and smaller particles, and at the end, you're just left with a little bit to wipe off after about 4 or 5 minutes of work. And then the same.
Is it shatters rather than wears.
It doesn't.
So it creates new sharp edges on a smaller particle.
That's correct.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
What's the trick? Good stuff.
So are you guys recording this? Does this stay on Steve's YouTube channel?
It stay on YouTube, yeah.
Okay, so if a person didn't show up at the beginning and they want to go back and watch the beginning, they can still see it later.
Yes,
cool.
They can, yeah.
And the benefit.
Good point by Hodgepodge. What if you've got voids, cracks, natural edges? I wouldn't think the abrasive paste would work too well.
It does. It does. It will fill the voids. It will fill the voids, but you can blow it out with an air compressor.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
I wouldn't use it on a burr, for example, because there's too many voids. It's just...
Oh.
But on something with just the odd 1 or 2, you can blow it out with an air line.
You say you wouldn't use it on a burr. You mean on a natural edge piece, or?
Well, I wouldn't use a natural edge piece for sure, because you would never be able to get it in there, really. You would never be able to allow it to work.
Yeah, that'd be my gut feeling too.
On burrs, when you've got lots of tiny little inclusions in a burr sometimes. It could make a bit of a mess, but it can be done.
I would think.
You can also heat it up a wee bit as well.
You can what? Heat it up?
Because it's made of wax.
So it melts.
It has wax as well.
Now, they also have mineral oil in them. A lot of those abrasive pastes. Mineral oil is not going to accept any finish on top of it. Do you leave this finish as just that's it, or do you try to put something on top of it?
No, Steve's going to put high gloss wax on top of this.
The high gloss wax because the Yorkshire. You've removed most of the mineral oil when you turn the speed up for the second half of the use, which removes most of the mineral oil. If you want to put a paint type finish, an overcoat finish as I call it, then you need to get some methylated spirits or denatured alcohol and take the oil away.
Ah, okay. because I wouldn't think wax would be a very durable finish for a long term if it's getting handled or anything. Nice if it's just up on a shelf, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, you can use the Hampshire Sheen wax, which is a combination of Canuba wax and
Microcrystalline.
microcrystalline wax,
Yes,
which
but
produces
still,
a high gloss finish.
it's gonna fingerprint, and if you're
Mhm.
trying to
It will.
something you're handling a lot, it's not likely to be durable enough.
But you could also just use microcrystalline wax, which is a bit more durable.
Yeah,
It's,
but still wax. So
it is, yeah. It is,
looks
yeah.
like Martin made a comment
Seen
that
that.
Yorkshire Grit is now owned by Easy Wood. I didn't know it was
That's-
Easy Wood, but they're owned by somebody, yeah.
It is
Uh,
easy, yeah.
now.
Okay, and Axe Wood Paste is a family-owned, small guy, USA. Yeah,
That's
buy
true.
from Axe in the US. He's a good guy. I don't know if he has the same products. I think it's important that we buy from good people, and I like to buy my stuff from somebody I know, someone who supports wood turning.
Yeah, I mean, Easywood is an American company. They bought Yorkshire Grit from a good friend of ours in the UK, and took it over to America, and it's now made there.
So made in Kentucky.
Is the
Kentucky,
one
yeah.
that if you buy it in the UK, is it made in the UK still?
Nope.
No, it's all comes from Kentucky now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They bought the rights to
The
it and everything.
whole thing, not
Yep.
just American rights.
No,
Nope,
they
bought
bought the whole thing
thing.
and they make it there now. It used to be
Huh.
made, well, Steve, Brian, and I have all been in the workshop where it used to get
Yep.
made.
Yeah, so now if you want this product that originated in the UK, you have to ship it in from the US.
That's
Yep.
what's happening currently.
Oh
Yep.
my God, that's terrible.
But we have another version of it here now as well. So,
What's that called?
True Grit.
True Grit.
It's made by a guy called Dan. Oh, what's Dan's second name?
Smith.
Dan Smith. Dan
Smith.
Smith.
Taylor's
Taylor-
Merfield in the
Taylor's
UK.
Merfield.
Ah,
makes
very
it.
good. Very good.
So, we have our own homegrown source now as well. So.
But, I mean, abrasive paste, one of the best things about abrasive paste is they work on the finer dust. When you get down to a finer abrasive, obviously the dust gets finer.
Mm-hmm.
The abrasive paste, they do that as a wet sand,
Makes it a
so
slurry.
they capture the dust in the paste,
Mhm.
and it doesn't get into the atmosphere of your workshop. I mean,
That was the
that's what
idea
they're
at the
good at.
beginning. That's what the
Yeah,
idea was. In the
that's
first
a
place,
good thing.
to save the finer dust getting into your lungs.
Yeah, and it seems to put a finer finish on the resins.
It does. Yeah.
If you took the Hampshire Sheen or the what is it, Yorkshire Grit, and that's more made for wood, but they have polishing compounds which are basically the same thing. The particles of grit in a carrier, and
That's right. Yeah.
intended to be for polishing resin up to really, really high polish.
That's.
Yeah.
I mean, Steve's mentioned earlier there. You have the original, which goes from sort of 320 up to 1,000.
Yeah.
And then you have the white version of it, which goes from 1,000 up to 2,000.
Yeah.
Both Yorkshire Grit.
If you watch Martin Saban Smith doing his lacquer polishing, he then moves on to the car
Teacup
teacup.
Oh yes.
or something.
Oh yes.
It's,
car lacquer polishes of some
yeah,
kind.
it's the same thing, but it goes up to a 5,000.
Sure. Right. Right.
Steve Scott says he uses Renaissance wax on his snooker cue.
That's something that gets a lot of wear. I'm surprised
Yeah.
it's that
Renaissance
durable.
wax was actually developed.
Design.
Well, it is microcrystalline. It was developed by the British Museum.
Oh.
A high melting point wax that they can put on their pieces that is fingerprint resistant because its melting point is high enough not to take a fingerprint.
Oh, okay.
Beeswax will melt in your fingers.
I've used that one. and like it. It's all petroleum wax, petroleum-based
Yeah,
wax, I believe.
petroleum-based.
Not no beeswax or carnauba.
So Roy the Boy's just put in there says I thought it was from 240 to 2000. No, Roy, it starts at 320 because you sand to 240 and then you start to use the Yorkshire grit after 240.
Yep.
Yeah,
So it's
it's the next grade
basically
up.
your 320 grit. It's the next grade up from 240.
Mm-hmm.
So if I said 320 to 2000 is what it is.
Well, Steve is going to get a piece all done in one couple hour session.
Oh.
But he's been spending a lot of time rubbing on that piece. So I'm now wondering if it's faster to just put, polyurethane or something on there.
I think
I've never used
we don't
polyurethane.
actually have the wipe on poly, which you Americans use a lot.
We don't.
We don't have that here at all.
Mm.
If you want it, you've got to make your own.
Well, yeah. Oh, you can make your own. Just dilute some polyurethane.
Yeah.
That's what you got. But no, I'm just wondering, time-wise, if the abrasive paste, because I was thinking of a product that I make where if I can save time on the finishing, I'm money ahead. And I wonder if the abrasive paste ends up being a faster finish ultimately.
No, I don't think it is personally.
I don't think it's any faster, but at the same time, I don't think it's any slower.
Okay.
I think the only
There's much of a
benefits with the
wonder, so-
abrasive paste is you're not getting so much dust in the atmosphere.
There's no dust.
Right, and that's a good point. Definitely.
Yeah.
That's a reason to try it.
That was the reason Glenn Senior invented the thing in the first place. He
Oh,
was the guy that invented Yorkshire grit, and that's why he
Mhm.
made it, because the dust that after 240 grit, the dust was affecting his lungs. So he
uh-huh.
decided he would make something to capture the dust.
Well, that's a good thing.
That is the main selling point of it. Is it keeps your workshop a bit cleaner as an environment to be in.
Yeah.
Not clean enough though.
Well, I'm going to have to try it. That sure is a nice looking finish he has on that piece.
Mm.
Yeah, he's not bad, Steve. He's an okay turner.
Another 20 years. After I've been turning as long as
Yeah.
you have, Cindy, I hope it's be nearly as good as you.
Well, all it takes is practice, so you will be.
Yep. Practice.
Only problem I've got is work gets in the way.
Mhm.
Yeah. I solved that problem. I gave up work.
Me too.
Work gets in the way, and if you give it up, then you got no way to pay your bills. So
Well, yeah, but you can sort of pay your bills with wood turning, but
you can be retired
if you
and have a
plan
pension.
ahead enough that you've got a pension.
Well, yeah, I did. So
Yeah, that's a smart thing.
I'm quite happily retired, and I just do my wood turning and my horses at the same time. That's my two things.
Horses?
Horses, yeah.
Oh,
I have 6 horses.
wow.
That I look after. Any more questions for Cindy, guys? I know we're getting near 9:25, but has anybody got any more questions for Cindy?
Just get the bottom finished.
Rob has said, sadly, I have to go and do my wife's meds, etc. Thank you, Cindy. It was great to meet you, and thanks to Steve for bringing us the stream. Good man, Rob.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
It's all in a day's work.
Mm.
Yeah, Rob
Yeah,
says,
well, here's a work that Steve is doing, and I'm wondering how he's going to pay his bills from it, because I don't think any of us is paying to be here. So
no, we're not.
Nope.
Good luck. Maybe he's going to get to sell that piece he just made.
Well, I might get $12.99 for it.
Yeah.
We just do this for fun, Cindy.
Uh-huh.
Lucky
And
enough
Steve's
the day job.
as well. So, yeah.
Lucky enough the day job pays the bills.
Mm.
And Steve's a demonstrator as well, so he does a lot of demonstrating around clubs and stuff. So that's where
Oh, okay.
he
Yeah.
might make a shilling or two. YouTube thing for us is just fun. Basically.
Cindy's there thinking, really? They have them sort of people demonstrate in the UK?
I wasn't thinking that. No, I was thinking, yeah, that's a good business.
Not enough though. Could be more. Right, so
Martin Fodder just says, I hope I'm not giving too much away. I often use Mick Hanbury's suggestion to reduce dust by sanding using a mixture of baby oil and beeswax to coat the piece before sanding. Sounds strange, but it works. Yeah, it's just that's
baby oil is
method called-
actually mineral oil. Same thing.
Yes.
that's
Baby
a
oil is
method called
mineral
slurry
oil.
sanding. Yeah.
And it's basically wet sanding there.
Yep. Just wet sanding or slurry sanding. One of the two.
Here's
That's
a good question. Do I use tension between centers when I turn the long finial stems? Finials, no, I do them with the tailstock away because I want a point on the end of it. A stem doesn't have a point on the end, so I can use the tailstock, but I have to be careful not to put a lot of pressure from the tailstock. And I still start at the tailstock end and work toward the headstock without going back to turn again on it once it's real thin. So you're never really working the middle of a thin part. At least that's the idea. With sanding maybe, but not with the heavy cuts.
Right, so just a little bit of sand and sealer on the bottom of that.
Roy the Boy says we have some great people that do demos in the UK. We do indeed, Roy. Lots of good
Do
tunnels
indeed,
out
Roy,
there.
and that gives me an opportunity to plug myself.
Indeed.
Last Friday of November, I will be down at Yandles. It's a 3-hour demo. It's extended demo because it's also their Christmas sales evening. So if there's anybody in the vicinity of Yandles, please come along and say hello.
One place I've never been, Yandles.
Is that free for people to come see you?
It's free to come and see. The shop pay for it all. But it's not
Nice.
free to leave because the last time I went there, I spent £1,000. So
I see.
It's a
You
shop.
get captured because you're in a shop. It's not good, Pete.
But
It's not good.
no, it'll be their Christmas late evening opening. So it's a 3-hour rather than a 2-hour demo. And you'd be very welcome if you can get there.
Oh, listen, Alex the Wood Butcher says, trouble is us poor turners can't afford to pay Steve for lessons.
You don't want lessons. Right, I'm looking for a bit of wood. You could do what I do. You could just spend hours and hours and hours turning stuff to learn tool control, and that should come. Once you get the basics right, it should come.
Yeah,
That's right.
it does. It does.
Right.
So that thing Steve just made, I'm thinking it'd look just as good turned upside down if he hollowed it from the other end. Yeah, doesn't that look great?
Indeed, yeah.
But I think they need a 4-inch finial on top, don't you think so, Cindy?
Oh, here we go.
It's a 2-inch finial anyway, I think.
2 or 3 inch maybe.
Here I go. I'll turn it out of this. Here you go. I'll turn it out of that.
Yeah, turn out of that. It'd be fine.
Yeah, there's no chance of getting Steve to turn a finial. None.
Not live, anyway. Right.
Finials are not for everyone.
I do them, but just I'm not confident enough to do them live. But it's like anything, it's just practice makes perfect.
I did one last week. On a Lizzie vessel.
You got people wanting a finial on that, Steve. You might have to do it.
No, not today. Not today.
It's nearly too late now. It's
Not today.
9:30, so.
Not today. I might do a little lid to sit on top with a finial, but you'll have to wait and see. Right, let's just get that.
It's Roy the Boy that's causing the.
Oh, I know. I'm going to block him in a minute. I'm going to block him in a minute.
You want me to put him on a timeout for 30 seconds? Then I'll just.
30 weeks, did you say? 30 weeks, did you say?
30 weeks, yeah.
Right, so it's just a simple little vase, whatever you want to call it. Where's my tape measure? Here it is. So it finished off 160 millimeters by 60 millimeters, and just a little
Very good,
foot,
Steve.
just a little foot on the bottom. A little bit of laburnum. Actually, real nice piece of wood. There, it's just got a little piece of the lighter colour just there. So it's really pretty. Shame it's got a couple of little cracks in it, but I super glued them up. So.
Oh, I can't. I can sit and block you, Roy, if you want. I don't. It's not that big a deal.
Right then, so
just because you've got a spanner.
Let's go back on here. Bring you guys back. So, any more questions for Cindy before we knock it on the head? Have you enjoyed it, Cindy?
Yes, very nice. It was great to meet all of you folks.
That's it.
Good.
So,
Jeff Robinson has just said, do you use micro mesh or 3M lapping paper in the UK for mirror gloss finish?
No.
Do you use? No,
I used to use the micro mesh, the little blocks for resin work, but then I found out that they weren't actually scaled to the correct grit ratio. So I then started using wet and dry sandpaper instead. So, and I found that much better actually, because with the micro pads, you only had a small area to go with, but with the wet and dry sandpaper, you can get a nice bit, and sort of, if you're doing like an egg, like I do quite a few eggs, you can form it. Like if you're sanding an egg, you can get your hand underneath it and follow the contour of the egg. So I found wet and dry better. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Hampton Woodturners.
Yeah, I find that because what we make is mostly tactile, then if your hand fits it when you're sanding it, then it actually enhances it. If you use mechanical means to get there, then it doesn't fit your hand properly.
That's one thing I find when you're sanding with the Simon Hope sander. When you're sanding a bowl, you can't feel if you've got any humps or bumps in it. Where if you're doing it with your hand, you can feel that. So sometimes it's a pro and it's a con. It's, you know what I mean? But
there's a balance between the eye and the hand. I mean, as I said, it's tactile stuff we're doing. So sometimes it needs to look good to the eye, but sometimes it just needs to feel right.
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to be feeling something, there's a bump in it, or, you know, there's something not quite right on it.
There's some really nice comments coming in there for yourself, Steve, and for Cindy.
Thank you very much.
Guys, appreciate that you've actually taken the time to come in and speak to us.
Yes, very much so.
Well, and thank you to Steve for spending the time here. And all of you guys.
Yes, never worry about Steve. He's here every Friday.
Every Friday. Every Friday. I'm like a piece of wallpaper, Cindy. I'm here every Friday, just hanging around.
Well, but still, you're taking the time to be here for everyone, and that's a good thing.
It is.
Did you know, Cindy? Next week we have a makers auction on. Next week, we have. I don't know if you know, but for the last 3 years we've been doing makers auctions for charity. The first year we did it for the Salvation Army. Have you heard of the Salvation Army?
That's correct. Oh,
they have that in the U.S. I don't know if it's the same thing.
So the first one we did for the Salvation Army. Last year we did for Dementia UK, and this year we're doing our chosen charity is for the British Heart Foundation. So what it is makers donate pieces. Makers have donated 17 makers have donated pieces for this year's auction.
There you go.
So we will be auctioning them off live next Friday night. That's been donated, that piece there that Brian's holding up.
There you go.
Oh, very nice. So how do you do the auction?
Right.
Just do it live on YouTube.
Do it live like this. I have a timer, but because YouTube chat is anywhere between 20 and 30 seconds delayed, what I do is I watch the live stream. So once the timer's finished here, I then watch the live stream for the timer in the corner, and then as soon as the timer's up, it's the last person that put the highest bid in the chat before the timer runs out, and then they get contacted by my wife, They then have to make their payment directly to a GoFundMe page. As soon as that's been made, then my wife contacts the person who's donating it to give them the details of the person who's won it, and then that's down to those to arrange shipping and everything else. So it's for the last 2 years. It's been quite successful. We've raised nearly £10,000 in the last 2 years for charity, so it's been good.
Very good.
So hopefully
that's
we'll
phenomenal.
do well this year. We've got raffle prizes that have been donated as well. Speaking of raffle prizes, we have had a new raffle prize donation from Lumberjack Tools. So I will be putting a picture up of that later on tonight on the Facebook page. So if anybody wants to buy,
Excellent.
When do you do the
well, what it
raffle?
is
How
people
does that
buy
work?
their tickets through the GoFundMe. So £2 a ticket. If they want, say, 10 tickets, they donate £20. They then email me to tell me what raffle they want to be entered into. We've got 7 raffles on at the moment. So tell me which raffle they want to be entered into, or whether they want so many for each one. Then on the night, we draw the raffles on the night as well. So my wife gives every raffle ticket a number. So we then do a random generator on the internet or on the World Wide Web, and then we pick the random winner through the generator on the night, directly live on the night. So people then get to know who the winner is, and then exactly the same as that, then they're contacted. The person who's donating then contacts the person who's won the raffle and then gets it all shipped out to them. So hopefully anybody who buys anything or wins anything should get it all by Christmas time.
Should do.
So
I've just put the GoFundMe link for the raffle into the chat.
Thank you, Pete.
Good man, Pete. Thank you.
Yes, it's been very successful the last couple of years. So hopefully we can. I know there's a living crisis on this year, and I think people haven't got as much flexible cash as they have had. But hopefully we can make a little bit of a difference for the British Heart Foundation.
Indeed.
A lot of people donate a little bit. You get a lot of money.
Exactly. Yeah. So every little penny helps.
So the raffle items are tools.
The raffle, I'll show you. I'll show you the raffle items. I have them here. I can show you. I haven't got the last one, but I've got most of them here. So
Steve has a video out so he can show you all
the raffle prizes are. So this is raffle number 1. So they're handmade yo-yos. One of the guys who normally comes in the chat, he was in the chat earlier. Barry's from Wood Creations. He makes these handmade yo-yos. So there's 3 up for grabs. So there'll be 3 lucky winners for that. Raffle 2 has been donated by Kingsport Rob, who was in the chat earlier. His company is donating 4 50-meter rolls of whether you want paperback or fabric rack of abrasives, 120 grit, 240 grit, 320 grit, and 400 grit. So they're donating 4 rolls of that. Raffle number 3 is a lady who was in the chat earlier, Jennifer's Craft and Creations. She makes jewelry and things, so she's donated a pendant and some earrings. Number four nice. Is I do a thing called the buddy range, which is different items to hold different utensils in your workshop. So I'm giving a package deal of that away. Raffle 5 is a beautiful vase that Andy Bundy Road has turned, and he's donated that to give away. And then raffle 6 is a handmade journal that a lady who has made, one of our viewers, his wife has made it to donate for the raffle. And then number 7 is a 125mm orbital sander and 250mm clamps and a beanie from Lumberjack Tools. So
nice.
So yeah, some good raffle prizes.
Can you show us the auction pieces, Steve?
Yes, I can. I haven't got all of them because I haven't uploaded them to. So lot 1. Oh, hang on. No, not that one. No.
Lucy put in the chat she loves the bowl that I made. But,
she does.
I would have set fire to, but Lucy bought it and I put the money. It was done through eBay as a sort of an advert, really, for the event.
Let me see if I can get it.
And that money is going to go direct to the British Heart Foundation from eBay. So
yeah, it's better that way. It's better that way because we don't get fee. They don't take their fees out of it then.
That's it. There's no
Yeah.
fees if you do it straight to it.
Ah,
So if I
yeah.
just quickly share my, how am I going to do this? Just quickly share my screen. Display capture. Not that one. That one. So
Find the right video.
no, it's not a video. No, this is the picture.
Oh, it's not your right.
So
Just a picture.
this is lot one.
Okay.
This is lot one, been donated by Mike Walt, Sycamore Bowl. Lot two is a black walnut crotch platter, donated by Doug Miller. Lot three is
Not a very good picture.
what? Not a very good picture.
Well, wait till it comes on you. Wait till it comes on YouTube because it's not a very good
It's
picture.
quite pixelated.
Oh, is it?
It's a bit pixelated. Oh, it's a bit better on YouTube.
All right. Okay. So lot number three is a piece made by Kez from Spirit and Bear. The bowl that Brian just showed you, lot four. Handmade ring to whoever size wins it by Rich from the Beard. That beautiful piece by Phil, absolutely stunning. That is, I love that. Spalted beach bowl from William. Ed Oliver has turned a nice little holoform, which is nice. Wayne Casper's turned a centrifugal piece for us. Andrew Hall has turned this helmet. Another piece by William, a nice maple and pearl heart pen. Another ring by Richard. This one's exotic wood. The other one was like a carbon. Stunning decorative box by Colin Spencer. Chris Parker's nice little holoform. And then we've got a purple heart bowl being donated by Alan Gibb. Terry Bray has donated a sequin bowl, whatever it is. And this has been donated by Sequoia. This has been donated by Martin Ford, who's in the chat. To obviously, that's the 17th lot. So, and then we're back to the auction pieces. I don't know if I've got.
Excellent.
No, I haven't got the other bit on there. But that is what's been donated at the moment. So some amazing pieces by everybody. Thank you very much, everybody.
Welcome.
So.
And most of the makers will be dispatching these free carriage to anywhere in the world.
Yeah, most of them are.
Most of them.
Some people are only going to post to the UK, but
yeah,
but it's down to the winning bidder and the
makers to talk about that.
But there is a new video. There will be a new video out tonight with every single piece. And we're not taking any more donations. It's too late in the day to take donations now. So what you see on the new video that goes out tonight will be all the donations. So if everybody can share that to obviously get the word out, that'd be great. Right. So if there's no more questions, then I think we'll knock it on the head. If any more questions, we've got 10 seconds to see if there's any more questions. Have you got any questions, Cindy, that you are asked the chat?
I've been asking all the questions I had, so and I didn't see anything in the chat that you all missed. So if anyone has a question, it's the last minute, last chance.
I've got to say, I mean, I spent up until COVID hit, I never knew that makers existed on YouTube.
No, neither did I.
So I spent several years working in my workshop without knowing that this world existed. Cindy was one of the first people that I spotted when I discovered it, and her waterfall pieces really attracted me.
I love them.
I've copied a few of those. But it's good. You know, it's such a great resource to have people like yourself, Cindy, out there sharing your work, letting us see what you're doing, inspiring us to come up with ideas. And as you said earlier,
it is, and
also inspired by other makers. Sharing is great.
Exactly.
Yes.
It is. And YouTube facilitates that.
Yes.
Not just with wood turning either, with all kinds of
Well,
wood.
look
yeah.
now, we're watching woodturners from all over the world. Before, we would have just been able to go to local club demonstrations or whatever and seen local UK turners. Where now we
Right.
can watch a turner from anywhere in the world, like yourself or Carl Jacobson. You know,
Mhm.
there's just a vast array of woodturners across the globe now that you can stand and watch or sit and watch.
Yep. And a lot of that has changed from the COVID pandemic, where everybody got good with Zoom and with live streaming and all these different chat forums and things. And so stuff like this, we didn't really have
No.
so much years
No,
ago.
ironically, the thing that closed the world down for a couple of years opened up a whole new universe for all of us.
Yep.
That
Absolutely. That's a very good way to
Very
put
much
it.
so.
Opened up our
Which has
community.
done us all a massive favour, really.
Absolutely.
Have you noticed since the COVID pandemic? Have you noticed your audience worldwide growing, or was it quite big already, Cindy?
I have noticed a lot of the people who were watching me during the pandemic are not so much anymore, but new people are here, and so it has actually grown. And changed a bit. I think a lot of the clubs had during the pandemic they had no other option. And a lot of people had no other options, so they started joining clubs all over the world. And a lot of that has kept going. But some people, once you could meet in person again, they quit doing any of the online stuff. So it's
true, yeah.
varied. It's not anything across the board, but I think overall what we've seen is more people are participating in the online clubs and live streams like this, and clubs now have an audience on Zoom for their demos most of the time. A lot of them in the US do.
Yeah.
So
do, yeah.
it has improved the experience for every single one of us, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I agree.
Right. I don't think...
And it has introduced a whole lot of new people to wood turning, which is the important thing.
Yes,
Try
and
and
made it
get new
easier
people
for
in.
easier for new people who don't live near a club
Correct.
to have a community.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the thing I'm most excited about, is that the people who don't live near a club, or maybe live in a country where there aren't any, or somewhere it's hard to travel, or people who are unable to travel for whatever reason, now can be part of a community and learn from each other.
The woodturning community has definitely grown since the pandemic. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's grown, it's expanded. There are lots of people I'm friends with now that I barely saw before then, and now I think my circle of friends has gotten a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Sometimes too big.
And worldwide too.
Yeah, worldwide is the thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm stuck with Brian and Steve these days. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know, it's terrible, isn't it? Shocking.
Mm-hmm.
Shocking.
Right then, I think we'll knock it on the head then. No more questions?
Okay, mate.
Right then, so
It doesn't look like it.
thank you everybody for your awesome questions tonight. There's been absolutely a massive amount of questions tonight. And thank you to Cindy for answering them as well. So I really do appreciate that, Cindy.
We do.
So I won't be here tomorrow. No, I won't. I won't be here Sunday because I'm working at the
Sunday.
shooting ground on Sunday. Looks like I'm going to be getting wet as well. That'll be fun. So anyway, I will see you guys for the auction if I don't see you before. So please be prepared. We're going to promote it as much as we can next week to get as much publicity as we can. Good news is AWGB gave us a shout out as well, so that was a benefit. So that was a good call. So thank you very much to the AWGB for that. And also thank you to everybody else who shared, liked, and promoted it. And please keep going until next Friday. So other than that, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Pete. Massive thank you to Cindy. Hope you've all had fun. Hope everybody else has enjoyed it. Everybody's going to saying they're going to see you on an IRD tomorrow. Cindy.
See who?
Cindy.
No, it's no.
No,
It's
Scott Hampton is doing one tomorrow, and Todd Raines.
Scott.
All right.
And I'm going to be
Yeah.
on Todd's. I'm trying to get part of Scott's, but they all offer recordings. So if I can't make both of them at once, I can see the other one later.
Right. Okay.
All right.
So-
Okay.
And then mine is 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Right. Okay. So anybody who wants to get Cindy's newsletter, jump over to her website and subscribe to her newsletter, and then you will be notified for every demonstration that she does. So make sure you go over and do that. So other than that, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, guys.
There's the link.
Thank you very much to
Thank you.
Brian, Pete, and Cindy. Someone asked earlier, I think it was Lucy, asked where Terry was. Terry's tired. He's getting over a massive cold, so he's been wearing himself out. So he decided to have the night off. So other than that, hope you get well better soon, mate. Anyway, we're going to go. So thank you very much. If I don't see you before, I will see you next Friday. So take care. Have a great weekend, and see you soon. Bye for now, guys. Say night, guys.
Thank you all.
Cheers, everyone.
Good night,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
That's all, folks.